Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jackie McGuire. I am the Senior Director of Security Product Marketing Management at Elastic. And today I am joined by a couple of my very smarter colleagues. First up is David Elgut. David, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Awesome. Why don't you tell people a little bit about what you do at Elastic?
Yeah, so I've been just as like a precursor to all this. I've been in the security industry for about 6 years now. Started out as a SIM engineer, then got into product and landed here at Elastic. Yeah, so I am the PM for our attack discovery agentic framework. I also do a lot of other things when it comes to agentic security, agentic SOC architecture and enablement within Elastic. I've also helped build and stand up our security MCP app. So pretty much very close to the ground when it comes to agentic security.
Awesome. We are also joined by Braxton Williams. Braxton, welcome.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for having me.
And what do you do at Elastic?
So I'm a product manager for triage and investigation of security alerts and detections.
Awesome. And then Braxton, before you came to Elastic, you were actually an Elastic customer, right?
Yes, I was a Elastic customer for a little over 5 years, working in a public sector security team, kind of built it from the ground up. And now I'm here, taking my experience working in the SOC and helping inform what we're doing with the agentic SOC story we're building today.
Awesome.
You've come to the dark side.
Yes.
Well, and that's what I love about Elastic is that one of the reasons I was really excited to come work here is that our product is built by people who've actually had to sit in a seat and use a sim. I've built one. I've actually never, I built one as a data scientist and user identity behavior analytics, but I've never had to triage alerts in one. So I am not the person to be building product here. I'm just the one who tells people how it works. But I love that we have people who have actually had real life applicable experience to it. So what we're here to talk about today is our new release 9.5, which will be out in just a few days from now when we're recording. And this fun new concept that we came up with that is not a product, but it's a goal. And so when we were talking about, what is the grind in security? What does that look like? And what do we wish it looked like? We were talking about the kind of the the analogy of inbox zero, this kind of no matter how long you've worked somewhere, I've only been here a handful of months and you look and my email is just like I've got a couple hundred unread email, right? And so I always have this goal of getting to inbox zero, but doing it yourself is very difficult. And so we were like, you know what we want? We want alert zero. We want a place where teams can actually come into work and not look at a wall of untriaged alerts, but enable automation and agentic capabilities that actually work and will actually get them to alert zero. So I'm going to pick on David because you're the agentic product manager. So when you think about that, what are the most critical pieces of the workflow for triaging alerts that you think can be automated and can be helped with agentic AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. And before I kind of dive into that, I really want to stress hard because a lot of people are still very skeptical of agents and security. They hear the misnomers from Twitter and from LinkedIn that, hey, your job is getting taken over. That is not our intention here. We're actually trying to keep analysts to focus on the most important things that they want to be focusing on. And that kind of leads us into the first piece of this agentic security puzzle that I think is super, super important. And it's to have an agents do correlation really, really, really well. They can kind of read between the lines and do kind of the day-to-day grunt work so that it can free you up to do, deeper investigations, detection engineering, and that's where our alert analysis workflow comes in. And then I'll pass this over to Braxton in a second, but it's where it's able to give you a jump start to figure out first and foremost what is a true positive and false positive alert. And I'm sure Braxton can speak to this as tier zero, tier one analysts. That's your day-to-day job, and you're spamming dismiss, dismiss, or like closing out the alerts because it's that noisy false positive detection rule. And I think that's again where agents can really help out is that correlation piece. and being able to understand if it's a true positive or false positive because they have access to all of your data, whether it's alerts or even raw logs, and they can correlate all that together to help paint the story of, hey, instead of 1,000 alerts, I just knocked off, 300 of them for you because those are false positives. And so now you're at you have a leg up from where you first started when if you didn't have agents, for example, to kind of help carry the burden there.
Yeah. Well, and Braxton, since you are Elastic customer, when you think about building the tools that you wished you'd had for the SOC you wished you'd been able to work in, what does that look like from your perspective with automation and agents?
Yeah, I mean, I think the goal we were always striving for was have the most context possible by the time an analyst goes to look at something. For my analyst, my goal building our backend automation before previously was, hey, I want you to log in, go to look at an alert attack, a correlated chain of things, and have the enrichment about what was this piece of malware, this binary that was attached. Oh, what threat intelligence did we have? Taking as many of those pieces and putting them together in a single analysis before you have to even pick it up as a human and reason about it, I think was always the goal. That's what we were trying to do. I think that was where we were at before a couple years ago with playbook automation and SOAR and everything else. And now we're kind of taking that same goal and we're just adding agents in the mix. We're adding that extra layer of being able to intelligently decide when we want to do those enrichments, how to stitch it together in a way that makes sense, rather than having to build 3,000 structured, SOAR playbooks that we previously would have had. It was a scale that we didn't have. We didn't have enough analysts to do the work before. We especially didn't have enough engineers to do it before. Now with agents, I think we're able to move that kind of goal to an actual achievable scale now.
Yeah, and so 9.5 is really our first big step in this direction. So let's talk about some of the stuff specific to 9.5, some of the enhancements that we have in pursuit of this Alert Zero. And I'll let you guys fight over who gets to answer this. But what are the big highlights you think in this effort?
I think the first big thing that we're introducing is a experimental alert analysis workflow. It's a out of the box capability that you can enable what rules send alerts to this workflow. So, like David mentioned earlier, find those noisy rules that you can kind of consistently close out false positive alerts from, send those to this workflow. Let it pull your previous history regarding how you've addressed these rules before, the prevalence of certain observables in the environment, and then let an agent go through, reason about that context, decide with a moderate level of confidence that this is a false positive, and let it close that out in the background for you with all of its rationale documented and everything else. And so this is a kind of earlier stage attempt at doing that, but we want to get it in the hands of everybody to take a look at, and David will show it off a little bit here in a moment. Um, but that's kind of that first pass to whittling down that onslaught of false positive alerts and that giant alert queue. And that lets us dial in better to where now all the steps down the line are working with richer, more, developed alerts and context and not dealing with, a factor of 1,000, but instead a couple hundred. And it's a more reasonable thing that kind of implements a lot of the cost efficiency that we're looking for in these agentic systems.
Yeah. And I think the piece that you highlighted that I want to really draw attention to is the reasoning that you can see and understand. Because I think one of the hesitancies by security teams to introduce AI or agentic AI into the equation is this concept of I can't take the chance that I throw this data into a black box and an alert doesn't come out the other side. And it was one that should have triggered, right? And should have been triaged, and I just don't understand why. So being able to see the reasoning, understand why an alert was flagged as a false positive, and if that was a mistake, go in and change the reasoning and actually better train the agents is something that I think is really important because trust is kind of the necessary component missing for a lot of security people to be able to start implementing these things. And I think one of the other things that I really liked when talking to Elastic about joining was, okay, we're going to make everything transparent and understandable and explainable so that you're not worried that you're just throwing this stuff through an unknown a set of machine learning and AI rules and then hoping that the right stuff comes out the other end. So, David, I think you have some things to show us about what this actually looks like in practice, and I think people would love to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's kind of walk through, let's take a step back and let's walk through kind of what the narrative for, alert zero, trimming down your alert queue so you can focus on more of the things that you should be focusing on, like threat intelligence, like investigations, etc. I'm David Elgut. I am a tier zero, tier one analyst at Acme Corp, and I've just logged in to start my shift, right off the bat, within the past 5 minutes, I've seen 100 alerts come up in the queue that are all assigned to me. Obviously, I would have to go through each one of these, and I'd have to, figure out whether or not this is true or false positive. But let's flip the script a little bit. Now I'm actually able to. My superiors have now allowed me to adopt our alert analysis workflow, and so out of the box, we can see here. I'm looking at I have 100 alerts, but I have 32 of them that were already closed. By the time they hit my queue, and I'll kind of show you how this works in a second, where like this is the alert analysis workflow that we have just shipped to 9.5 that we have just been talking about. Here I have the ability to whether or not I want to enable it. So if I don't want to enable it, that's completely fine. It's there if I want it. I can choose whatever model we want to, and this is something that we stress here is we have this ability to bring your own model. So if you have something that's self-hosted, data sovereignty is a huge piece. If you want to control where your data is going, what LLM is managing it, and you're in an air-gapped environment, you can bring that here and use that. And I can, if I want to use our Elastic AI agent, I can. If I want to build my own custom agent, I can select that as the where this data is going. And then I can create agent builder conversations. So where I can see the agent who is doing the actual reasoning, I see I have that enabled, and then I see that I have auto close alerts that are classified as false positive. Again, if I just want them to receive this the breakdown in the classification, I can do that, and I don't want it to be auto closed because I still want the power to say whether this is closed or not. We're giving that to our users, and here we have a minimum and maximum false positive confidence score, whether or not these are auto closed. So obviously, if I turn that off, that portion wouldn't matter. And then we see here, I can apply it to, I only have one rule here, but if I had, 10,000 and I want it to run on 5, I have that ability to choose that here. And again, back to the power is in the control of the users. We're not dictating where this should be run or how it should be run. We are giving you the tools, and you kind of are in the driver's seat to be able to say how you want to use it. So let's go back to our alerts page here really quickly. I can see here I have a low severity alert. And if you see this red dot here, that means it has received a note from my agent who ran the alert analysis workflow on it. I see that I have a false positive classification with a pretty high confidence score that it gave it. And back to, like what's the reasoning behind it? We didn't just slap a score on there and just call it a day, but we actually have the rationale from the agent of why it gave it the confidence score, the contributing factors, and then the analysis details, and then also the token usage. So we see how much did this cost at both input and output, and then total tokens used. And so now we can see that that's kind of the power of the alert analysis workflow, how it works. We see the agent reasoning there as well. And then the other piece, this is kind of where does attack discovery come in? So now we can go ahead and see that now I have 68 alerts in my queue. They're all fairly high true positives. I can go and double check that here. I can see it's 78 confidence score with a true positive classification. And for those who aren't familiar with how attack discovery works, is what in the past it's done it retrieves your alerts, it generates the attack narrative, and kind of correlates the actual attack that's going on within the alerts. And then what it does is it validates the attack that's been generated. So the LLM goes ahead and does some deduplication, anti-hallucination, and then also does persistence as well. And in 9.5 now we have the where we are bringing skill architecture to attack discovery, where Agent Builder has access to things like threat hunting. It can do alert analysis. It can check your raw logs. So it's not just retrieving your alerts, but inside the skill architecture, it's actually conducting an entire preliminary investigation before that attack is even generated to double down and ensure that the attack narrative you're seeing is indeed something that you should be looking into. Beforehand, a lot of people said, well, my decision gate was always, is this attack that I'm looking at true positive or false positive? Obviously, that's not entirely gone, but you can have even more confidence that what you're seeing, especially with the alert analysis workflow, where my attack discovery is only running on true positive alerts. I can, triple ensure that the attacks I'm seeing are definitely something that I should, start investigation on, maybe open up a case, pass it to another agent or another analyst, etc. And so what that looks like kind of in flight. So if I were to have run, let's say we ran attack discovery in its skill mode, we've attached our model that we wanted it to, and then we have our default validation workflow attached to that here, where then it kicks off an agent conversation and it goes ahead and does that entire investigation that I just kind of referenced on those true positive alerts. So we can see here that this is the entire reasoning of how the agent came to the conclusion that it did. I see that I do have 7 attacks that it generated across those 68 alerts that we were just looking at. And I can see, the transparency here is something I really, really want to hit home on. Is if you don't, let's say you don't trust this. Let's say you say, the model came to this conclusion, but I really want to be doubly sure. You can continue to chat with your data. You can have it triple check. You can have it rerun attack discovery, because your agent has access to all these tools, all of your data, and all the context. Again, you're the driver and you're making the decisions. So we see here that it loaded the attack discovery generation skill. It treats 68 alerts. It records all of its IDs. This is the ESQL query that it runs. We see that, hey, it went ahead and validated and succeeded in creating all of these attacks. But what it wants to do is it then wants to go ahead and run a kind of a lightweight raw log corroboration to, again, ensure that the telemetry that it's picking up via the alerts and via what's going on in the raw data is also conclusive to the attacks that it's generating. And then lastly, one thing I want to hit on is again, obviously we see here, these are all the attacks. Zoomed in too much. All the attacks that it generated, the evidence tables that it outputted. And then the last thing here is by checking the raw logs, it can corroborate and see, are detection rules actually hitting the things that they should be hitting? So then what it does is it passes to you as the analyst kind of a gap analysis to say, hey, I saw this raw data that the alerts that fired may have missed this, or the detection rules that you have currently inside your environment may have missed this. So these are some rules that I propose you to go ahead and write. Again, this is not taking any actions. It is just a proposal. And we can see here, lastly, that you as the analyst still have the decision to say whether I want to go ahead and create it. Maybe you want to go ahead and double check your detection rules to see if even they need some small tuning. You can again push back on the agent to help you in that investigation. And so once all of my attacks are now acknowledged, we can go back to our queue and we can see we have no more open alerts. And so these are just the ones that we're looking at right here are just acknowledged and closed. And so that's kind of the piece that we're really trying to hit home on. This isn't something that you can turn on and you can kick your feet up and, neglect your job. You still obviously have decisions you need to make, and we want to stress that. But, from where we started the story, where we had 100 alerts and I had, to go through and each one of these and make the decision of whether it's a true positive or false positive, I actually kind of have kind of a leg up in even building towards the agentic SOC architecture, where I have a tier 0 analyst that's triaging false positive and true positive alerts. And then I also have attack discovery that's helping me do the tier 1, tier 2, correlation of the alerts, and then as well as kind of a lightweight investigation inside of your environment.
Fantastic. And Braxton, from your perspective, so as a less technical non-SOC analyst, from my perspective, this solves kind of both ends of the problem, because I know detection tuning and detection engineering is not easy. And so, and when you're mired in the day-to-day triaging of alerts, that can prevent you from writing new rules and tuning detections and things like that. So it seems like we're not only helping deal with the volume of alerts, but then also helping deal with the source of the problem, which may be detections that are not tuned appropriately. So, from an analyst perspective, is that something that would expedite and make your day-to-day job more efficient?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the kind of the classic story here in the SOC is if you're already drowning under a mountain of alerts, you don't have the time to make investments in improving the situation, improving your efficacy, evaluating what you're doing both programmatically and, as far as your detections and everything else. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're this is working at, towards closing the entire life cycle. And I think that's something that we've also heard a lot about from other early attempts at integrating AI in the SOC and building these kind of agentic systems is if you're doing analysis in a bubble. If you take every single alert, you provide an analysis about it, and you say, "Hey, here, it's already analyzed for you." Those systems aren't doing anything to improve your throughput, improve your performance, improve your outcomes. They're just saying, "Hey, we're doing the analysis for you. Now you get to go decide if that's right or wrong." So I think we're doing something a little different here and working towards a better end goal where we really bring what we're doing at an analytical level on these signals into creating recommendations to improve your overall state, to tune your rules, to make sure you have good coverage. And by that, we're kind of building the system that learns from itself. Everything that we're doing, you may start out with having to run that alert analysis workflow over 1,000 alerts a day. It's, LLMs aren't free. We know that. The token economy is real. But maybe you have to run it on those 1,000 alerts to begin with. The goal for us, from our perspective, is we want to get it to where, cool, you're getting maybe 200 alerts a day by the end of this. You're running it, on that large throughput for a little while, and as we improve the entire ecosystem, as we improve your entire, your seam detection set, your agentic SOC operations, we learn from everything. We want the system to improve to where that throughput significantly shrinks. And so you might have to start a little bit, large on your token spend, but the goal is the whole system itself improves and drives everything down. And I think that's the real difference with this approach versus kind of what I've seen other folks try to start building, and as we explore these options with the agentic SOC.
Amazing. All right. Well, I'm sure we're going to have lots more content and blogs and all of that for people on these capabilities as we continue to build them out. But hopefully for our viewers and our customers, this gives them a great place to start with understanding all of the awesome things that we've rolled out in 9.5. Thank you both for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Shaggy.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. Have a great day.